Coming up, Black Hole Observatory.
Philae goes to sleep.
SpaceShipTwo-2.
And we test the Starliner.
Plus, we're going to be talking about space tourism. Stay tuned. Tomorrow begins right now. And welcome to Tomorrow for Saturday, February 20th, 2016. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. I'll be joined by Jared, Carrie Ann, and Mike in just a moment. But before that happens, a huge shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who have helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are the people who've contributed $10 or more to this specific episode. You can find out more information on how you can help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow over at patreon.com/TMRO. And as I promised, the whole gang is here. We've got a Jared, a Carrie Ann, and a Mike ready to go. And let's go ahead and get started with some space news. We had a launch of a Rosetta rocket on Tuesday, February 16th at 17:57 Coordinated Universal Time. And whoosh, it goes, the converted ICBM. That is carrying the Sentinel 3A spacecraft that is going to measure the world's oceans, ice sheets, and respond to help us respond to climate change. Specifically, it's tracking changes in the planet's sea level, the ocean color, marine organisms and like algae and photoplankton, ice sheets, rivers, and lakes. That was 1.2-ton European satellite. It's going to go up there. It's going to last about 7 years. As I mentioned, the Rosetta rocket is based on the SS-19 ballistic missile. And of course, the satellite itself is part of Copernicus program in Europe, which is a huge freaking program. This thing will spend nearly $10 billion by the end of the decade, and it will be the world's largest Earth observation system when it's complete in the early 2020s. So huge constellation of things and stuff to look at the Earth and help us determine climate change and other things. All right, moving right along. Over in Japan, we had the Astro-H launch via the H2A on Wednesday, February 17th at 08:45 Coordinated Universal Time.
Thermal batteries activation. All systems are ready. SLB ignition liftoff.
I feel like we were a little delayed on the liftoff call on that one. That happened, like I said, Wednesday, February 17th. This is a black hole observatory. Basically, Astro-H has a bunch of X-ray sensors that can see cosmic phenomena that's invisible to the human eye or specifically visible light, hence the X-rays. It's going to detect photons and measure their energy with high sensitivity. There are 4 telescopes and 4 instruments on board. This is Japan's 6th X-ray astronomy satellite since 1979. The big deal on this one is the microcalorimeter. Did I say that right? Yeah,
Close
sure.
enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
I turned the resident astronomer, which is chilled to 50 millikelvin, which is minus 459.58 degrees Fahrenheit, or for the rest of the world, that's minus 273.1 degrees Celsius, which is a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. It's freakishly cold. Don't touch it with your tongue.
No,
is what
don't
I'm
lick
getting
it.
at. And the reason they want to do that is because what they're doing is to measure these really far away X-rays. They're looking for minuscule changes in temperature. And so we super chill the sensor, get it as cold as we can, and then we look for just tiniest point of warmth coming off of anything, and that is kind of the detector plate. It'll be the first sensor of its kind to make it into space, although it was developed in the 1980s, and we've actually tried to launch these before. Tried first in 2000 when Japan tried to bring it up. Well, I'm sorry. First we tried in 1999 with Chandra, but that instrument was actually removed for technical and budgetary reasons. Then we tried again in 2000, but we lost the satellite on the launch vehicle during a launch vehicle failure. Tried again in 2005, but before that vehicle could be brought online, it made it into space and then like failed before it could come online. They couldn't keep it cold, and so the instrumentation basically was done dead. So hopefully it will fare better this time.
Yes, and it should get us good data too.
So, and what do we care about? Like, why do we care about X-rays in astronomy?
We care about X-rays because they come from the most energetic events in the universe. So that's very, very important for us to study.
Are those events
that.
called Jareds?
No, they're not called Jareds,
okay.
but they are measured in Jareds.
They're measured in
So
Jareds.
approximately
How many Jareds worth of energy is that?
3.7 Jareds worth of energy. Also, another thing, X-rays you can't build an X-ray telescope here on the surface because our atmosphere blocks that.
Stupid atmosphere.
You have to put it above the atmosphere in order to detect them.
And so it's going to be looking at black holes,
Yes.
cosmic phenomena like that, galaxies, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
It's going to kind of peer into them where we normally wouldn't be able to see.
Absolutely.
This is the symbol for peering.
Yeah.
All right, talk to me about the Philae lander.
Yes, well, Philae, we all remember, landed on a comet known as 67P.
Landing is a very strong word for what it did.
Well, attempted to land.
It kind of bounced around a little
on
bit.
a comet. Yeah, 67P, also known as Churyumov-Gerasimenko.
Boom, right there.
Right there.
Holy cow.
There you go. On November 12th, 2014 is when it attempted to land, and we can actually take a look at this image right here, which is from the European Space Agency, looking at what Philae did as it crossed the surface. Now, it was originally...
It wasn't supposed to cross the surface.
It wasn't.
It was a lander, not a rover.
Yeah. So what it did is it took almost 8 hours for it to drop down to the surface because the gravity of a comet is so low. And then when it touched down on the surface, it was supposed to fire a thruster to push it into the surface while it would fire specialized comet harpoons into the surface to reel it in. None of that worked, of course. So it bounced, and then it bounced again, and it went into a shadowed region where it then basically continued to do science until it eventually died. And it did accomplish all of its scientific goals, and they've been trying to see if they can get back in touch with Philae, because where it's positioned on the comet doesn't rotate nicely or nice and evenly. It kind of tumbles through space. So when that ends up happening, that may have put Philae back into the sun, where it could then recharge its batteries and send itself back. And in fact, in June and July of 2015, it did send a signal back to Rosetta, basically, hey, I'm here. Here's some telemetry of what we've got. And it did that for a little bit, but they lost contact with it. And now that the comet is moving away from the sun, they have now basically said that because the comet is so far away from the sun, Philae is probably most likely dead on the surface of the comet. Of course, they said that probably because of lack of direct sunlight, the cold temperatures on the surface of the comet could have also done it in. And very interestingly, I kind of like this idea, which is that as the comet gets closer to the sun, the activity on the surface increases. So they think that potentially, because of that increased activity, Philae may have been blown off of the comet and out into space. So they're not. Yeah, exactly.
Do they have a comic for that? Because they had all the Philae comics, right? Like all the cute little characters
they
bouncing
did have,
around.
They did have.
They have
cute,
one of them like, ah!
They do have the cute animations that the European Space Agency did, but I don't think they have a cute animation for a dead Philae on the surface. So. I'm just thinking about this
it's
here.
It's just permanent sleep.
He's just taking a nap, right? There was
a
always
sleep.
the nap.
It's just going to sleep for the rest of time.
Helldesk wants to bring Philae home someday.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be a difficult mission because they haven't been able to even find where Philae landed, or bounced to on the surface of the comet, even with their highest resolution imagery. So they have an idea of where Philae's at, but they just also have no clue where Philae actually is in that area. So
is there a special farm for old landers to go?
Yeah, send an old comet lander out to pasture.
Say, most of them are on Mars, no?
Mars does have like a 49.5% success rate or something like that.
Yeah.
For all of that.
They're usually very good at entering the atmosphere, not so much about the stopping. Lithobraking, usually not a good way to work with your system.
So as you may have noticed in the bug, today's topic is space tourism, and in the news this week, we actually have a big deal. Space Mike talked to us about Virgin Galactic and what they've got going on.
Well, this is a pretty big deal because Virgin Galactic has officially rolled out their second SpaceShipTwo. And Stephen Hawking named this vehicle. It's going to be called the Virgin Spaceship Unity. And we have a couple of pictures of that rollout. And this whole ceremony it was attended by a lot of the future astronauts and ticket holders that will be flying on this vehicle eventually. And this new SpaceShipTwo is the first vehicle that has been manufactured by the Spaceship Company, which is Virgin Galactic's wholly owned manufacturing arm that was kind of the cross between Virgin Galactic and Scale Composites. And also this is, of course, the second vehicle of its design ever constructed. The new vehicle started its construction back in 2012, with each component going through rigorous testing before it was assembled. And now that VSS Unity has been fully manufactured and unveiled, the Spaceship Company will try to undertake different systems testing before they do ground testing and then eventually flight tests, which will include captive carry flights, free flight glide tests, and powered flights with an active rocket engine. Although they have a lot of work ahead of them, one advantage is that they do have a lot of the flight test data from the previous spaceship, and they are mindful, though, that this VSS Unity is a new vehicle, so they will have to conduct a lot of those earlier tests again to make sure that this vehicle performs as expected. That's a really cool shot I like of Harrison Ford in the cockpit there. Obviously, the ceremony had a lot of celebrities that are ticket holders to this as well. And in the recorded speech that Stephen Hawking gave, he said that he would be very proud to fly on this spaceship someday, since he's been offered a ticket by Richard Branson. So hopefully everything goes well with their test flight program, and they're able to get the vehicle flying soon, captive carried with its White Knight 2 mothership plane, and get back with the program and hopefully figure out all their different engine problems and go from there to get this thing flying again. And of course, we don't know when it will be flying, but I'm sure if we asked Richard Branson, he'd say 6 months away. So we'll see.
Jazz Throne had a question, which is, where's Chewie?
Don't you guys remember Harrison Ford hates Chewie in real life? Something with his wife? I don't know.
Well then.
Whoa! All right. That was. I had one other question. I totally lost it, Mike. I'm sorry. So I will loop back around to that. So carry on talking to me about the International Space University.
Yeah, so the International Space University, which is actually headquartered, I suppose, or stationed. There's a word I'm looking for that I'm not finding right now.
Galactic headquarters.
Sure, is in Europe. It's in France. But they're looking to establish a space entrepreneurship institute in the United States.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they know either, honestly. So what they want to do, they're looking... No, well, because they have... it's like any sort of entrepreneur that has a really good idea. And so they're entrepreneuring an entrepreneurial institute. So it's like a lot of buzzwords.
Sure.
So trying to make some sense
How
out
disruptive.
Is it
of it. It felt
disruptive?
very, yeah.
There was a lot of synergy, though.
Synergy, exactly. That's kind of how it felt. But
Take
what
a shot.
They're trying to... Okay.
You too, Internet.
Yeah, you too.
you too,
have to-
Internet.
you have to
They're
take a
looking
shot.
for a partner in the United States to establish the Robert A. Heinlein Institute for Space Entrepreneurship and Space Innovation in the United States. And so they're looking for, again, a lot of words. Quote, they want to do multiple I can't do it either. Multidisciplinary. Oh my goodness, yes. And then my notes just went absolutely haywire.
Mine too.
Awesome. I'll just keep talking. They want to do seminars, workshops, hackathons, a lecture series, public conferences, performances, short courses, and global events that will allow public participation, which really means they want to do tomorrow, but with more things.
Or a space up.
Right. And,
More or less space up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they also want to do digital publishing, books, essays, webcasts, blogs, and media productions. All of them focused on entrepreneurialism inside of the new space industry. They've realized that America, there's a lot of new space companies that are based in America, and so that's why they want to base it here. The interesting thing is that they're not just necessarily looking for an academic institution, because a lot of people were thinking like, oh, well, if I'm not a college, then maybe I shouldn't apply. But they're actually looking for pretty much any space-related organization that's interested. So museums, research centers, partnerships with any of those things, including universities and other such things. Yeah, which were really cool. Statements of interest are to be submitted by February 29th of 2016, and you can get more information on the International Space University website. And then just as a slight side note, but kind of piggybacking on this, I thought it was interesting. One of the co-founders of the International Space University is Peter Diamandis. Diamandis Production. There's a film about him called Visioneer, and you can actually watch it for free. Today's the last day of the free screening, and you go to visioneermovie.com and you just sign up, and then you can watch the entire movie, which I thought was really cool.
So the Peter Diamandis thing we should probably explain for those who have no idea.
Yes.
So Peter Diamandis has many large influential entities out there. International Space University is one of them that he helped co-found. The X Prize Foundation is another one. He was part of Rocket Racing, is that correct?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Singularity University.
Singularity, yeah, okay. So
He's
long list of
co-founder
things.
Planetary Resources. I mean, you
So
name it.
you'll find that in the aerospace kind of new space world, everything kind of funnels up to like 1, 2, maybe 3 individuals, and he's one of them. And so there are the children of Diamandis.
Keep in mind that Virgin Galactic was spawned from the X Prize.
Yes, somehow you know something that Peter Diamandis has done. You may
like-
not know that you know that, but you do.
It's like the 3 or 4 degrees of separation of Peter Diamandis.
Right, and it feels like it's like
Exactly.
2
Exactly.
at any given point in time.
So anytime, our little joke, our internal little joke is anytime we mention Peter Diamandis, it's a Peter Diamandis. So, children of Peter Diamandis.
So there you go.
All right.
Have any of you guys seen the Visioneer documentary? I actually saw it, and it was actually really good. So
I haven't
for
seen
those
it
of you
yet.
watching,
I want to see it. I only saw the trailer for it, and it looks really good.
yeah, it is. You guys should definitely take advantage of the free viewing after this show.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right, cool. Talk to us about our 9th planet. You know when that will get old?
Theoretical ninth planet.
Never. That
Original
will
ninth
never
planet.
get old.
I feel like every time I bring up a Pluto a Pluto story, I'm just setting myself up
You
for
are.
it,
You
so.
totally are.
It's okay. I can live with. People have always. People have been wrong for a long time about many things. So I mean, that's perfectly fine.
I know, like demoting Pluto. How
Yeah.
could they be more wrong about that?
I don't look at it as a demotion. I look at it as sort of correctly putting it in the right bin that it should be in.
all right.
Yeah. Anyways, now that I've spun that, the continuing saga of the Plutonian system is just getting a little more interesting now that we have new data back from Charon, Pluto's largest moon. And let's take a look at Charon, which is sort of this really
Charon.
Hi, Charon. This sort of really
Hey.
outrageous kind of looking place. Now, when the terrain of Charon was first seen,
She doesn't like saying, I mean, her terrain, really?
the terrain.
Her terrain? Okay, never mind, keep going.
Okay.
I
anyways.
derailed you, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm not
I
actually
understand.
sorry, but it was fun.
I understand. You can be wrong and derail me at the same time. So, anyways, looking at Charon here, a scientist called the terrain that they saw there chaos terrain because it seems like if there was sort of a topographical puzzle that somebody just started shoving puzzle pieces into wherever they possibly could be because of the way Charon looks here. Now, there's been a new hypothesis that has emerged from some of the data that could potentially describe why Charon looks like the way it does. And one of that new hypothesis is that a subsurface ocean actually existed on Charon back when it was significantly warmer. So back at the beginning of the solar system, most of the objects in the solar system were very hot. They radiate their heat out into space in various ways, and when you do that, you eventually cool down. So back in the day, the early solar system, like 4 billion years ago, there might have been a subsurface ocean on Charon, which is a very cool thing to think about, an ocean being that far out. Well, as that heat radiates away, the water freezes, and water expands as it freezes. So what ended up happening was that as that subsurface ocean froze, it expanded, and it ended up pushing out against that surface of Charon and caused this wild terrain that we see on the surface there. Now, that specific highlight in that image, that sort of close-up that we have, is a geological feature on Charon called Serenity Chasma, and it is 1,800 kilometers long and 7.5 kilometers deep. It's one of the longest, essentially valley networks that you can find in the solar system. Just a comparison, the Grand Canyon is about 446 kilometers long and about 1.5 kilometers deep. So if you can imagine, 4 times the size of the Grand Canyon and 3 times as deep. Holy moly, that is some amazing terrain just out there. And we had no idea it was there, too.
That's cool.
That's the coolest thing.
Thanks,
about
New
this.
Horizons.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, talk to me about, oh, you were done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
I have no good segue. So talk to me about Cygnus, Space Mike.
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
You're welcome, Space Mike. That was just for you. Ready, go.
So, So Orbital ATK's enhanced Cygnus vehicle has completed its unberthing and separation maneuvers at the International Space Station, and we have a couple of pictures from this.
Oh no, I did
This is-
video.
Oh, this is video, even better, even better. This is video right here of it being released from the station's robotic arm itself. The ISS crew released the Cygnus at 12:26 Coordinated Universal Time on February 19th, and it stayed at the space station for 72 days of docking operations, which is 12 days more than the 60 days required by NASA. It was launched on the 6th of December 2015 aboard an Atlas V rocket with a liftoff weight of about 7,492 kilograms. And for those in the United States, that's 16,517 pounds. The launch of OA4, or Orbital ATK-4, marks the first time that two commercial companies cooperated for an International Space Station resupply mission. After 3 days of approaching the ISS, Cygnus maneuvered close enough to the ISS to be grabbed by the station's robotic arm, similar to how we saw it just be released, although much more complex, and it was gently berthed to the vehicle's Node 1 nadir calming berthing mechanism port. This was the first time that the Cygnus was berthed to what's more commonly known as the Unity node on the International Space Station. And during the vehicle's stay, it was unloaded and repacked with trash and equipment that was no longer needed at the space station. And the vehicle has then unberthed and has been set free for its destructive plunge into the atmosphere, which they call the end of mission. The destructive re-entry is actually going to be taking place today, and it might have already happened, but for all I know, it could be happening right now. I haven't gotten an update yet whether or not that has re-entered the atmosphere, but that is supposed to happen today. So very cool, and congratulations to Orbital ATK for having this successful mission. And they'll be launching their next mission next month in March, also on an Atlas V rocket. So that's very, very good updates, and hopefully there won't be any more interruptions to cargo deliveries to the space station.
So, Space Mike, what you're saying is that if you look up and you see a shooting star, there's a good possibility that that shooting star is astronaut poop.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Don't forget the urine, too. That's why it has that blue color.
Thanks, Mike. So speaking of spacecrafts that have a blue color, Boeing Starliner. Hey, it's like a blue logo.
That's true.
A little bit.
Wow. So earlier this week, NASA and Boeing were testing a full-scale model of the CST-100, or Starliner. They were actually testing it at Langley's Research Center at the, as you can see here, the 20-foot deep hydro impact basin, as it were. This particular picture shows Charlie Bolden, who was there earlier this week, NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden. He was checking out the test article just days before the actual test itself. They're testing the systems in the water should there be an emergency event where the Starliner has to evacuate the rocket, as it were, if there's an issue, an emergency. They were also showing how the craft can handle itself in the water, make sure that it can right itself, the integrity of the vehicle, etc., etc. They want to see how it'll perform under rescue operations. This, of course, is part of the qualification for testing and evaluating before they will allow the Starliner to carry humans. Yeah, I love that picture.
I feel like there needs to be a hashtag contest on that.
Honey, there's a
Hashtag
spacecraft
kerplunk.
in our pool.
Right?
So is it only qualified to like land in pools? How does that?
Wow. Wow. This is a different kind of drop test. They're not doing like the landing on or not landing on land drop test. This is the landing in water drop test. But then this way they can also, again, making sure that the vehicle can right itself and they can prepare, they can try to prepare for emergency evac, getting the humans out.
Making sure it's upright, doesn't flip upside down, because that would suck.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that something built in that shape would sort of be able to do that,
Sure.
but you have to make sure. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something that's interesting is they already completed all their land tests with the Starliner several years ago, and this is just for kind of a backup in case they do have to do a splashdown in the ocean somewhere. But the plan is for the CST-100 is to actually land on land with those big cushions, inflatable cushions that you saw. So they're already pretty far along with it, and this is just an extra contingency. Possibly that was an extra thing with the most recent round of the commercial crew program.
Well,
Oh.
so.
it would apply on any launch abort scenario, right? Because they're going to launch from Cape Canaveral. So once you're more than, 20 seconds away, 20 seconds into flight, not even that.
Yeah.
If you launch abort, you're dropping in the drink.
I mean, even a pad abort may put you in the drink too.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. I mean, in any sort of abort scenario, they're going in water. basically. So that's likely what they were.
Or a
testing.
pool.
Or pool. any
Lot of pools
any
in
pool in
Florida.
Titusville is an eligible landing
pools in
area.
I'm just imagining this like 5x5 kilometer pool out in the middle of Edwards Air Force Base. Just
Nailed
sitting
it!
There. Just, ooh, nailed it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about space tourism, all the different companies. There are a lot of companies doing space tourism, so we're going to be talking about them and what's going on with all of that, and when hopefully they'll be flying. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with some expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. The heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get started with our main topic of space tourism, hashtag space tourism, I'd like to thank all of the patrons of Tomorrow who've helped make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are people who contributed $5 or more to this specific episode. If you'd like to find out more information on how you could help crowdfund the shows of Tomorrow and get access to your name in the show, as well as exclusive Patreon chats and hangouts, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our main topic this week, space tourism, which is kind of an exciting thing. The reason the topic this week is space tourism is in no small part and or in its entirety because of what Virgin Galactic did with SpaceShipTwo, which was the news item that Space Mike talked about a little bit earlier on, showing off Unity, their new SpaceShipTwo. But you know, there are a lot more than Virgin Galactic. I think is the big one, right? Everyone's heard of Virgin Galactic. We all kind of know. Space Mike, just kind of really quickly describe what the heck they're doing, just so we have some sort of.
So their plan is to launch a small aircraft that's actually a space plane from a larger aircraft, and this whole air launch scenario where they would drop the space plane from the larger aircraft, the aircraft would go away, and they would fire a small rocket engine to be able to get it to pass the official boundary of space. However, there actually is some argument as to whether they're looking at the old United States Air Force boundary of space or the international boundary of space. That's either 60 kilometers or 100 kilometers. So we'll see about that. But in any case, the whole point is to have this whole parabolic arc where they actually are able to go into space for hopefully several minutes and then re-enter the atmosphere. And they have this cool feathering system that would allow it to have sufficient drag to have regain control of itself and be able to enter into a nice glide into the atmosphere and glide back to its runway. And they're charging $250,000 per seat, and as long as you can pass a fairly basic medical test, you can be qualified for flight for that. So that's what their plan is. They're also going to be doing scientific payloads as well on some orbital flights, but that's going to be in the far future. They have a pretty let's say impatient backlog of customers who want to start flying. So
When were they supposed to actually originally start flight? Like originally, it was like.
I believe, and I might be wrong about this, but I believe that the original flights were supposed to begin in 2008 when the Virgin Galactic was first formed. And
I think it was 2006. They did their second qualification for the X Prize in 2004, and they said that they wanted to be flying commercially in 2 years.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, that's true.
And they didn't get
2006.
They didn't get the first SpaceShipTwo rolled out until December of 2009. So.
Yeah.
But they're working on it.
They are. They've said we're not going to fly until it's safe, which is the right thing to do. But space is very, very hard, and it takes time to make it safe.
Yep.
So yeah. The neat thing about Virgin Galactic is you're going to have like 5 minutes weightlessness. As Space Mike mentioned, it's going to go near that 100-kilometer line, but it probably will not pass, at least not in the first iterations. It will likely not pass the 100-kilometer line. My understanding is it's going to go well past the 60-kilometer line, though. Like they're just brushing up against 100 kilometers, but not quite making it. And at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs because you get to experience weightlessness, right? Like five minutes of microgravity, and you're going to see the curvature of the Earth. And it's going to be kind of a pretty epic and awesome experience.
Yeah.
They're not the only ones doing that. We've also got X-Core. They're building the Lynx space plane. However, they're kind of, it's sounding like X-Corp is not in a great position financially right now. Like all of their executives recently left and or were kicked out. So I'm not sure what the future, has anyone here heard anything about the future of X-Corp?
I've just heard that they've sort of stopped work, if you will, because of the fact that everything's in flux right now. So, but I heard that like 6 months ago when things were basically like, hey, leadership is in flux right now. So, and I haven't heard anything since then.
Yeah, neither have I. Space Mike, have you heard anything new out of X-Corp at all?
Only rumors, but nothing that I really trust. I've heard rumors that they actually do have like some sort of secret investor that is actually funneling large amounts of money, and that's why a lot of these executives were kicked out, because whoever this mysterious backer is wants things to go a certain way. But again, just rumors, and I don't really trust the information. And other rumors, just like what you were saying, Jared, that they've almost completely shut down. I've also heard rumors that work is ramping up in their Midland, Texas site to have things move over. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, neither do I. I know that they had a bit of a brain drain when they moved from California down to Texas, because there are a number of engineers that are no longer employed at X-Corp, high level engineers as well. So it's a little bit concerning from who's going to make the thing now. But we don't really have any new information other than there's a huge shakeup that happened. We know that there's some financial distress with the company, but not sure if anything will ever actually come of it. They're working on the Lynx space plane. The neat thing about Lynx is you're taking off, unlike SpaceShipTwo where you drop like an airplane, you're taking off in a rocket airplane, essentially.
Yeah.
And you're strapped in and you're going full force all the way up into space. So you're going to really get to feel that, like, those G-forces pushing you back. The downside is, unlike Virgin Galactic, you don't get to float around the cabin, right? You're going to be strapped in the whole time. You can, like, bring up some Skittles or something and watch them float, like a little teddy bear, I bring up a little My Little Pony.
Take a camera for the ultimate selfie.
Ultimate selfie. Yeah. Although I feel like that's not really the ultimate. It's like, would that be the ultimate selfie? Maybe.
I think it'd be cool.
I think the ultimate selfies have already been taken by astronauts when they're outside the space station.
Yeah, kind of, right?
Yeah, well, nobody took a selfie on the moon.
Well,
With
they
the
took
Earth
selfies.
with the Earth in the background. So,
all right.
just saying,
Did they have
that would be the ultimate selfie.
Did they have the Earth in the background where they landed?
But it wasn't a selfie.
All right.
There's very strict rules to selfies.
Okay.
It didn't even exist back then. It counts. Whatever.
It counts. So
Turn the camera around towards himself and snapped a picture. It counts.
that's X-Corp. It's going to cost about $100. It's $100,000 per ticket, or $150,000 per ticket for X-Corp. It's about half the price.
It was $95,000 for a long time.
It went up though, didn't it?
Past year, it went up to I believe $150,000.
Yeah, $150,000. So not quite half the price of Virgin Galactic. Although Virgin Galactic's ticket price went up as well, didn't it? It started at $200 and went up to $250, or
Yes.
it started at $250 and went up to $300?
No, it started at
$200 to $250. All right. Then there's actually, interestingly enough, the one that I'm most excited about, which is Blue Origin. And I don't want to be excited about them because I'm upset with how they don't bring us along and get to enjoy their launches with them. They're so secretive that, it's kind of like, blah, yeah, we're making this thing, it's all about us, and you can hear about it when we're ready to tell you about it. And I much prefer the companies who are like, come with us on this epic journey. Let's show you what's going on in real time. That is not how Blue Origin is. So I don't want to be excited about what they're doing, but what they're doing is really freaking cool. So, they're basically their old school Apollo-esque capsule going up to space. How would you describe it?
Basically, I'd describe it as a rocket launching you and your capsule suborbital and then bringing you back. It's just a simple flight profile up and down. But instead of using a space plane or a rocket plane, you're on a traditional, actual launch vehicle system, if you will.
When you get giant windows,
yes,
and you get to float around the cabin.
Big old honking windows.
Huge, way bigger than what Virgin Galactic's even looking to do. Because when you're up in space, ultimately that's what you want, right?
You want
to
the
be able
view.
to see the Earth.
Yes.
Right. So big honking windows. You get to float around the cabin. You get, again, 5 minutes weightlessness. They will. I don't think they've announced it, but I would be very surprised if they can't go over that 100-kilometer line. Has anyone heard any real numbers? on how far?
All I've heard is just from those the 2 public tests so far that they definitely, or 3 public tests so far, that they definitely did pass the 100-kilometer line, well above the 60-kilometer line. They passed the 100-kilometer line.
So, and that's kind of
all 3 times.
That's the general accepted boundary of space, is the 100-kilometer line.
Yeah, that's the international.
The 60-kilometer line is not a real thing anymore. It was back when we were trying to learn how to do things, but we know how to do things now. So 100 kilometers is the line. Then we've also got, but we don't have ticket pricing information on them. We have no idea how much this is going to cost. We don't know when they're going to fly. We don't know where they're going to fly. We have no details on this whatsoever because Blue Origin wants to give you no details whatsoever. And it drives me bonkers. But what they're doing is very exciting and very cool. Reusable launch vehicles, reusable capsules. They got the ideas right, and they're proving it. They have bent metal. They're flying product. They're making things go. And then we've got Worldview. You heard about Worldview first, didn't you? Like at a conference or something?
No, I heard about 0 to Infinity, which
All
is
right, well,
slightly different.
All right, then let's do 0 to Infinity. Who's 0 to? Because you wrote that one in there, and I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, 0 to Infinity. Yeah.
Oh, they're the balloon. They're balloons.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about 0 to Infinity.
0 to Infinity. So Blue Origin has the sort of like big window capsule on top of the rocket, and 0 to Infinity has just the big window capsule with a balloon on top. So huge balloon, you go up high, 22 miles, 36 kilometers, give or take.
So you don't come even close to the defined boundaries of space, but according to them, it doesn't matter.
But you still kind of get a little bit of the curvature, kind of like how a lot of classes and what have you are said, like, oh, we sent a cookie to space, or we sent a Lego figure to space, or what have you, and they use balloons. It's the same kind of thing. You kind of get that interesting curvature of the Earth in the background, even though you're not coming anywhere close to the 60-kilometer, 100-kilometer line. Yeah.
So you'll get that kind of overview effect.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get weightlessness.
No, not really.
But your ticket prices should be substantially lower, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't actually write that in my notes, so my bad on that one. But yeah, it is significantly less because you're taking kind of less risk to a certain extent. You're not putting yourself on top of a explosive. You're just going up in a lovely little balloon, and then you're kind of coming back down, and all nice and gentle.
Yeah, so
Which would be nice, because that would be like a longer ride for a cheaper price, and with still getting the overview effect.
A lot longer ride, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be several hours.
Yeah.
You're gonna actually. It's going to be kind of. Can you bring up more than one person?
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you bring some wine and
they're-
cheese.
Yeah,
Their plan is to have several different versions, and their plan is to keep having larger and larger and larger versions. And they've already flown several test versions. There's videos that you can find where they have a little robot in like the pilot's seat testing it out. And for some of the larger versions, I think that's going to have up to 12 people. However, there's also going to be like a pilot on board, as well as like stewardesses to serve drinks and even meals and stuff like that. And it's going to be like total like plush like couches everywhere and all that sort of thing like that. That's their plan for like the big version. That company's out of Spain, and they're the same ones who kind of have that updated Raccoon idea, where they have a rocket that would be lofted by their biggest version of their balloon. And it's a really cool idea to have spherical toroidal tanks, like in the shape of a donut, that would have several of those inside of it. So it would have a large ring on the outside that would launch it initially, and then a smaller one would come out of that, and that ring would launch, and then that one would detach away, and then the final one would be like its third stage to get small satellites into low to medium Earth orbit. So I like their idea, and I don't know if I mentioned, but they're out of Spain, and they're a really cool company. But the other one that's kind of doing the same idea, Worldview, that's actually right in my backyard of Tucson, Arizona, and I hopefully definitely will be flying on that one someday.
You will hopefully definitely be flying. I'm not sure how that actually.
As long
flies.
as I can save up the money for a ticket. That's how I feel about all of these space tourisms. I'll fly
So-
on all of them as long as I can get the money for it.
A question for
Or
the
the
group.
free tickets.
Question for the group and the community: can we count 0 to Infinity and Worldview as space tourism? Because they're not coming even remotely close to the boundary. What's the international definition of the boundary of space?
Sure, but it's
does it
difficult to
matter?
say. Well, it's difficult to call that anything else, right? While you're not going to space, you're also not going to New York from California, right? It is tourism.
Sure.
I mean, otherwise you're calling it really
Well, it's a
high
balloon, but
tourism.
It's a balloon ride. It's a hot air balloon, essentially.
Yes,
so
but
is that a space ride going on a giant hot air balloon?
It's a hot air balloon to an altitude that will still give you a similar overview effect that you would get if you were actually on your way up to 100 kilometers.
Without the microgravity, though.
Yes.
So, how do we define this, though? Right? I mean, we have it in the show rundown because I think it
then
would
you have to-
interest all of the
wait,
community
because
tomorrow.
then you have to call like a parabolic flight, like a 0G flight.
Right.
Right. Then you have to call that some sort of space plane.
Suborbital tourism.
Right.
Well, by that same definition, wouldn't any
Because you
plane
get
be
you get
suborbital
some
tourism?
But that's what I'm saying. If that's the way you're going to define it with the microgravity situation. Because you just
Well,
said you
but
don't get microgravity with the balloons.
You don't. You need two things. You need, well, no, ultimately you need, I think the general thing is you need to cross that 100-kilometer line. Right? So if
Stratospheric tourism.
Atmospheric tourism?
still in the atmosphere tourism, I mean, it's neat. So we bring it up because I'm not sure if you classify this as space tourism because it's not technically going to space. You're not going to experience microgravity, but you are going to get that overview effect.
Sure, but then to a certain extent, you could call anything that doesn't go to somewhere in space, like a moon, an asteroid, or a space station. You can call all of those, anything that doesn't do that, you can nullify as being a space tourism, yes? Do you see what I'm saying? Like anything that only goes up and comes back down, not space tourism. Because it doesn't go to a destination in space.
No, but what I'm saying is it doesn't cross that line. So
I feel like
So then at this point, none of them do, because you just said that Virgin Galactic doesn't either.
Virgin Galactic doesn't make it. X-Core does, I believe. Blue Origin does. Worldview, Zero to Infinity do not. And then the others that we've mentioned will as well. So really, Virgin Galactic is intending to get across that line, but they haven't been able to get there yet. Right?
I feel like with Worldview and Zero to Infinity, yes, they are not technically space tourism, but they're related to space tourism in the same way that zero-G flights, Vomit Comet flights are. You know, because that's more considered like a space type of thing than it is, just a cool airplane ride.
So essentially, it's more about the experience than it is about the actual metrics as to whether you made it or not.
Sure, the intent has to have something to do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the people who are interested in such a thing aren't necessarily. You're not going to get the thrill seekers going on a worldview balloon.
Right.
Right?
That's the wrong thing for them. Well, maybe. I mean, it might be kind of thrilling to be up that high. Giant windows.
I suppose, unless you're like, Red Bull and going to jump out of it.
So Chris Radcliffe somewhere in here said it's space tourism in spirit. I think that's a good way of putting it. You're not going to space. I don't think we can call it space tourism, but I think people who are interested in space tourism would also be interested in these things too. Just like taking a parabolic flight is not space tourism, it's a parabolic flight. It's really cool and interesting and fun. And if you're interested in space and want to go to space, you probably want to take a parabolic flight too. But I wouldn't call a parabolic flight a space tourist flight. It's a parabolic flight.
Yeah.
Right. In no version of a parabolic flight are you going to space.
No.
So
But you get the similar experience.
you get simulated microgravity.
Yeah.
Right. Or
You get the microgravity effect in the same way that those balloon flights would give you the overview effect.
exactly. But then one could also argue a Concorde flight would have been the same thing because you still get the curvature of the Earth on a Concorde flight. Yeah. So
You still get the curvature of Earth on any flight.
well, yeah, but okay, now we're getting into. All right, so actually, curious to what you guys think. Definitely leave your comments in the comments section. I'm curious. We do have a couple more. One is SpaceX, actually. Although I'm not sure that they're really quite ready for space tourism just yet, and I'm not sure they're really going to be doing tourism. I don't think they really qualify for this particular hashtag. They're looking for So if the hashtag were hashtag space colonization, maybe SpaceX would apply.
Why can't you put a seat on the first stage?
On the first stage?
I'd ride it. I'd ride it. I'd do that. That sounds like fun.
I think you would die. That's
Well,
why.
Put it somewhere where I won't die, preferably.
I don't know where that would be.
They're riding the trunk.
It just sounds like fun, going through the retro burns and everything. That sounds awesome.
I don't think you would.
Flying through your supersonic flame, like how great would that be?
I kind of want to mic you up and just hear you going, ah!
Well, this isn't to say, though, that along the way to colonization, SpaceX might not do tourism. Although there's no plans for that, it's still something that could come up in the future when they're doing regular, especially crewed flights to the International Space Station.
Yeah.
Just like the Space Adventures company sent people up on Soyuz.
They're the only company who actually has real space tourism right now.
Space Adventures?
Yep.
So
They have
by
to deal with the Russians, which I believe the last price was like $96 million per seat, which of course no one has signed up for. But they also have their plan for the lunar flyby mission. And James Cameron, the director, has one of the seats, which is, I believe, $150 million. It might be 250, but I believe it's 150.
And they need
The only
one
thing
more
they're
seat.
waiting for is one other passenger to buy a seat, and then they'll do the mission.
So, and we didn't even put space. We completely forgot Space Adventures, and this is an interesting point. If you want to do space tourism today, you actually can on Space Adventures. You just need to have a giant wallet. I mean,
Yeah.
you
And
need to
learn
spend
Russian.
upward. I mean, like you said, nearly $100 million. But that space tourism adventure is definitely going up above that 100-kilometer line.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to go to the International Space Station and stay there for a little while, right?
Yeah.
So you're not 5 minutes
That's
away
don't
witnesses.
like.
You're like full on at station, really experienced in space for your 100 million. And if you want to go to the moon, you can do that too. Oh my God! If any citizens of tomorrow have $150 million, or is it 150 or 200 million? It's up
I'm not
there.
sure.
If you have $200 million,
If you have 200, you know what? If you have $250 million, give tomorrow $50 million. We'll do some cool things. Then the other $200 million, definitely, I would love it if you went to space and went to the moon, and we could mic you up. And I just want to hear your adventure. That'd be fun.
I think Stoge would be the best to do
Stoge.
because she could fit in the.
Does she
the
have
capsule.
200 million?
go.
Do you think?
So I don't know if she has 200 million.
quite,
but
a little
she's,
short, just a-
she's short enough to at least fit in the capsule that will let it happen. So.
And the last one on my list is, with a giant question mark on the end, is Maston Space Systems, because he's kind of secretive as well. He kind of lets a few snippets out there. He's working on a lunar lander. I don't know if he's really looking at space tourism, but he's definitely kind of in that same space colonization camp. I think it's really a question of will he get enough money to see his vision through, right?
Yeah.
So
Because it is, Maston sort of is like that mom and pop kind of little aerospace company, but they are doing massive things for how small they appear. They are definitely
I
a
think-
lot bigger than they give off. So.
I think Maston is going to be a little bit like Blue Origin, where you just don't hear anything from him for a while, then all of a sudden you go, where did that come from? You're going to, you're going to land on the moon now. All right. And that's going to be like Dave, and he'll do it in like only Dave Maston can.
Yeah.
We'll just be
and then,
like,
and then he'll be like, yeah, we're going.
yeah, we're just going to
We're gonna
go
land.
ahead and go land on the moon about a week. We're going to do it in about a week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
And then it'll land, and he'll be like, I'm pretty happy about it.
That's
It's pretty good.
pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That was thrilling stuff.
Yeah.
I hope Dave's watching.
We love you, Dave.
I do have a man crush on Dave.
Me too.
I do have a man crush on Dave
Little
Maston.
bit.
But does anyone here think that they'll do anything with regards to space tours and not just space colonization?
I hope so. Jeez.
I mean, when they start working on bigger vehicles, potentially, I wouldn't rule that out.
I would argue that any program that exists could be bought.
I heard voices. Or any program that exists could be bought. What do you mean by that, Dada?
So any program that people are currently working on to get people to space or to ISS or whatever, if you wanted to buy yourself a Falcon 9 and a Dragon 2, I'm sure Elon wouldn't turn the money down if you wanted to purchase that hardware and could find support for your mission, etc. And I'm sure the same is true with most any company out there. If you've got the money, they'll take it and they'll put you in space and put you through their mission.
That makes a ton of sense. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, pretty much all of them that can fly past the 100-kilometer line, if you can, well, they have to have some sort of spacecraft. They have to have some way to get you up there.
Yep.
That's, so what do you guys think? So, did we miss anyone in our list? Who are you excited to go flying with? Because, we're a bunch of space geeks, so we probably want to fly to space. Who do you want to fly with? Actually, let's go around really quick. Who do you want to fly with?
Blue Origin.
Assuming all of them are flying right now, and money is not an object. Who do you fly with?
I'm going with Blue Origin.
Mike?
All of them plus Copenhagen suborbitals.
you have to.
capsule.
Oh, Copenhagen suborbitals. That's
oh
a good
my
one.
gosh.
That's a good one. But no, you can only pick one. So who are you picking?
I can only pick one.
You're getting a free ticket. We're writing you a free ticket right now. But you got to pick one. Who do you pick?
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. You.
Just because of the view.
The view. Yep. You. You don't. You're scared of going.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of heights.
How about Bigelow? Go to a Bigelow space station.
I mean, yeah, but I've got to get there somehow, yeah?
Yeah. So I'm writing you a free ticket. Who do you go with?
Oh, man. If that free ticket also includes some sort of Valium,
Sure.
passed out
Sure.
for
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because,
Yep.
A sedative.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Space adventures.
I don't know. I don't speak Russian.
Well, they
I don't
teach
know.
you.
I don't think. No, yeah, I really don't think I can.
So are you
choose.
stuck between like the balloon in like a Virgin or Blue Origin kind of thing? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a Zero to Infinity or a Virgin.
Interesting.
Those would be my top two.
I
but
would
Change
actually.
my answer to Space Adventures.
You-
I'll take one of those free tickets any day.
Oh, Space Adventures. Yeah. I would
So I'm
actually.
Soyuz.
I'm not sure if I would go with Space Adventures or Blue Origin. The reason being, with Blue Origin, you kind of get to experience all of it. You get the giant windows. It's not a side-mounted design, or I mean, it's a known, good, trusted kind of design.
Yes.
So I like the safety factor of it. I like the giant windows, and you're only up there for long enough where you probably won't experience space sickness. Right? So you get to experience Earth and experience space and not get sick. 50-50 shot if you go on Space Adventures, you're going to be sick for, what is it, 3 days?
Potentially.
Like 3 days, like
Yeah.
ill
They do,
for 3 days.
They do have new techniques now that they use before they let you fly.
Is that the like
Leading-
flipping you upside down a bunch of times?
with messing with your, I believe it's your vestibular system, if I remember correctly.
I heard that only improves it by like 1%.
Well, that's a better than 0% as far as I'm concerned.
So I don't know. I would probably do Blue Origin over Space Adventures simply because I don't feel like being sick for 3 days. Having been sick for a week, I already know I don't like being sick. Who would you guys like to fly? Where we're writing you a free ticket. Who do you fly on? Why? Who did we miss? And what are you most excited about with regards to space tourism? Leave your comments anywhere you want. Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, our website, Patreon, whatever. And speaking of comments, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, comments from our last show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We've always looked to the stars. They guide us, give us comfort, help us find our way. We see ourselves out there. When we look up, it inspires us. And we long for something we don't yet know. We yearn to go there. So, we venture forth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not.
Many think we stopped exploring. But we know our journey didn't end. We've only just begun.
Orion is functioning perfectly at this point.
Come with us and explore tomorrow.
The general consensus is everyone loves that commercial. Welcome back to Tomorrow, and before we get started with comments from our last week's show, I did want to give a huge shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who helped make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are the Patreon Plus subscribers. So they've contributed $2.50 or more to this specific show. They're going to get access to After Dark as soon as it is made available online, as well as their name in the show, and of course, they're going to get access to the Patreon hangouts that we have the last Sunday of the month. But wait, there's more. If you'd like to just get your name in the show and have access to that hangout, you can just contribute as little as 1 penny. That's right, as little as 1 penny. Get your name in the show, access to some exclusive content, and it helps us quite a bit. So if you'd like to find out how you can help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. Every single dollar helps. We are working on advertising has been just annoying the crap out of me on some of these websites and other areas. And so since we get so little money through advertising, I'm like, why? Let's just not annoy you and just rip the ads out. So we still have 2 breaks in the live shows, simply so we can change topics. One of those breaks is a launch calendar. Sometimes both are, so it's still relevant. The other break is just kind of a moment for us to reset. But you can fast forward through them if you want, and I'm not hitting the monetize button for the live shows anymore. I think we're still doing it for Space Pods, but we'll kind of see how those go. All right, let's go ahead and get started with comments from our last week's show. Last week's topic was, it was 10 years since the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services Program was initiated. How has that changed spaceflight? Hashtag COTS10. So, you have to say it like that. Hashtag COTS10.
Hashtag COTS10.
So, all right. I don't have another one this year. So, last week you were Commander. The week before that you were Capcom. What do we got this week, guys? What are we calling her this week?
Carrie Ann.
All right, Carrie Ann. Oh, no. No, hang on. All right, Carrie Ann.
Oh, wow.
Get us started.
That's awesome.
Trying to help. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This one comes from Sebastian Bauer off of Twitter. It says, can you guys give insight why the development of the Orion capsule has a much higher price tag than Dragon or Starliner?
I'm going to opt out of that one, but maybe Space Mike, could you help us? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's because it's a cost-plus contracting program, which means that companies are given incentive, whether officially or unofficially, to have delays in their program, to have the most complicated solutions to simple problems that they possibly can, and to spread construction of the vehicle, the different components of the vehicle, on different parts of the country or even different parts of the world, to spread things around so much so that essentially it's a jobs program. And the Orion could have been made for way, 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 way cheaper, but I think the cost, the price tag so far is something over $8 billion so far. And we've only flown it once, but thankfully we have flown it at least once. It was getting pretty bad when we were getting close to the $6 billion mark, and we still hadn't even flown it yet. So that's why the Orion is so expensive, because it's a jobs program.
Well, but what about Starliner, CST-100?
That is a jobs program. However, that is not under cost plus. That is under what's called fixed price contracting, which means that NASA will not give the company any money at all until they have fulfilled whatever specific goal they have. And thankfully, they have milestones to give, seed money and funding money to the companies as they're progressing through the things. But for example, you need to have the entire structure of your capsule finished first, the framing of the system first, and then we'll give you X amount of dollars. You need to test the parachutes, and then we'll give you X amount of dollars. You need to test all of the different life support systems, will give you X amount of dollars. So it's a much better way of spending the money, and that's why COTS has produced so much hardware for so little money compared to a lot of the other big programs that NASA has. Like
the question is why does Starliner cost more than Dragon? Right? I mean, they're both, neither one of them is cost plus, they're both under COTS. So why does the Starliner cost more? Are you, buddy? All right, should we just move on?
That one, because I could get in trouble for my answer.
All right. We'll just move on. Okay. All right, next question.
This one comes from Cody SB055 off of YouTube. I cook for the scientists at Harvard that discovered this, so that means I helped discover the gravitational waves, because if they were hangry, they wouldn't have ever discovered them.
Actually,
that's
also,
very true.
That is the first
extremely true.
It's first use of hangry in the show in 10 years or 9 years. So congratulations for getting hangry onto the show, and also completely agree. Anyone who helps out, it's not just the people who make the discoveries; it's the entire support system that goes around them. At Rocket Company X. Being caffeinated, being well fed is just as important as actually being able to build those parts, because you need, humans have needs, and you need to be on your best A game.
Yeah, so, if you're distracted, you can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for helping, because that was a huge deal. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, here's to you.
Completely agree. Congratulations. And by the way, if you're watching the show and you're like, and you're not in the aerospace industry and you think it's really interesting, and you want to do something in aerospace, but you're like, but I'm not a rocket scientist. It doesn't matter. they need support structure around the rocket scientists to help them do things. They can't do all of it on their own.
Yes.
So if you're really good or passionate about something, I can guarantee you there's something in aerospace for you. There's something at one of these companies. Someone needs you to help them.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. Moving along.
This one comes from Miguel Chafin off of YouTube. Between the way NASA has been treated as a jobs program and the fact that so many space startups, like the Ansari X Prize, that promised things for a super low price but then folded, there are plenty of reasons that Congress did not give a lot of money to COTS or CC Dev.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It felt like it was a slightly more political. I feel like, again, Space Mike, you have a pretty good opinion on this one. You want me to pass that one back to you as well? You're allowed. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Miguel makes a good point because at the time that they were deciding on the funding for COTS, there wasn't a whole lot of commercial programs that, kind of were setting the precedent for this. I mean, yes, orbital sciences had kind of come out of the first, new space movement back in the 80s. But again, all of their stuff was pretty much all government contracts or contracts for NASA. So, that's kind of an example, but there wasn't anything recently that showed that they could be able to accomplish that. And Scaled Composites was already scooped up by Virgin, and so he makes a really good point there, that there wasn't anything at the time that would allow them to have a good reason for this. But again, going back to the whole jobs program thing, that's taking away from a lot of these senators' constituents who are in a lot of those states that are spread all over the country where different parts of things are manufactured. So you're right about the political resistance as well, because they don't want to take money away from their constituents. That don't mean they won't be able to get reelected next time. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, next up.
I have no idea how to even try to say this.
Slurf.
Yep.
All right, Internet, how do we pronounce this? Put a pronunciation guide in the next comment.
Slow Trump 4.
Sure. Slurtrum 4 off of Reddit. Regarding the discussion about robotic mission, I really think Ben missed the point in the original tweet. Robotic missions require significantly less delta V. There's no need to provide for a return and descent to Earth for robotics that a human needs.
So I probably did miss the original point, but there's just I feel like there's more that a human can do, and I know that your comment went on Reddit a little bit further than that, but humans can just do so much more. What's the quote?
Yeah, from one of the engineers at JPL who, during a tweet up, or excuse me, a NASA social that had happened, which is that even though our robotics are amazing, a geologist on the ground could do everything that we've done in 20 years of robotic missions in about 15 minutes.
So now let me ask you this. Let's just say we took the entire budget for human spaceflight, all of it, and just translated it straight over to robotic missions. Mm-hmm. So now you've got billions of dollars available for more landers and rovers. Would that change anything?
Well, it would obviously change the instrumentation that you could put on board. It would almost be like, basically, what do you want to put on board? Okay, we're putting that on board.
But would it make the robots better than humans?
If you can get the correct instrumentation there, yes. Because even if you send humans, you still have to send instrumentation with the humans in order to make sure that it's used by the human that's there. So if you could send equivalent instrumentation, it may make it easier. But then there's also things like during the Apollo missions, when the astronauts would see a rock that looks interesting, and you end up getting something like the Genesis rock, which is essentially the original crust of the moon that just so happened to be laying there, that the astronaut just so happened to remember from their geological training that kind of a rock is a scientific gold mine, and I need to get that. And you really can't do that very effectively with a robot. So I kind of take the position that you do, Ben, which is that both robots and humans working together is sort of the ideal way to do it.
But the problem is,
as opposed to just straight robots or straight humans.
Humans require so much stuff. They require air, lame. They require water,
entertainment,
food,
space,
which is all weight and stuff and like
way to get rid of their waste.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, we're really hard to keep alive, and space really wants to kill us. So, I mean,
No,
it's trying really hard.
That's true. That's what it is.
So that makes human exploration substantially more expensive than robotic exploration. So, in your opinion, is the current break between human and robotic exploration from a price standpoint, does that make sense? Or should we maybe funnel more money away from humans and into robots? Assuming the budget remains the same, would you move the lever in either direction, or would you kind of leave it where it's at?
I would move the lever just a little bit towards the human side.
Really?
Not as much with the robotics, because now with robotics and things, we're getting into concepts of smaller spacecraft, like using the interplanetary CubeSats and things like that. So what's to say that you can't develop extremely small landers that can still do the equivalent science that you want to be able to do on a surface of somewhere like Mars? So I would move it just a little bit towards the humans, simply because things are starting to get a little bit easier to make smaller, which means that you can make more of them, which means that you can end up launching more of them.
All right.
That's what I would do.
Carrie Ann, close us out.
One more comment.
One more.
One more. We got one more.
I can do it.
Uno más.
I believe in you.
Thank you. This one comes from Glacius Blue off of Reddit. SLS is annoying. If they had a COTS-like program for a super heavy lifter, I think they would have secured at least one, maybe several. It wouldn't enter service until about 2018 like SLS, but it would be many times cheaper.
SLS is the Space Launch System. It's the giant rocket that NASA's working on. It'll be the most powerful rocket humans have ever built. Even in its Block 1 configuration is more powerful than the Saturn V, and its Block 2 configuration is even more powerful than that. So, and then the comment is basically saying if they had contracted out, we'd have at least one, maybe several super heavy lift rockets. I don't know. I feel like everyone in the COTS program was late.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
everybody was late.
And it's different, right? So building something to go to low Earth orbit is a well-defined thing. We've known how to do that for decades.
Yep.
Building a super heavy lift launcher, we did that essentially twice. We did that with the Saturn V rocket and with the N1 rocket. We had a 50% success rate with that. So that is not a well-known thing. Certainly it's possible to do, but I don't know. I'm not actually 100% convinced that a COTS program, it may have. I don't know. Mike, what do you think?
I don't know. And this kind of goes back to the earlier comment. Like, if I would keep NASA's budget the same, or either completely balanced between robotics and humans, but I want everything to be a fixed price contract. And allow exceptions. If they come up with a problem, or if there's something that wasn't foreseen, then they can work out an amendment to the contract or something like that to get like an additional milestone to fix that problem or something like that. Be flexible, but still be fixed price contracting. Don't encourage people to be flexible, to drag it out and get as much extra money as they possibly can out of it. But, for special situations, allow for flexibility. But everything should be fixed price contracting. And if they can't meet those deadlines or whatever, and it's not something that could be seen as something that could be easily fixed, then they need to be dropped. I mean, I get so angry about the billions, getting close to trillions of dollars that have been spent since the 80s on all of the replacements for the space shuttles that were all just canceled. I mean, we're talking so much money on programs that got to 95% completion and then canceled. And this has just been going on and on and on and on and on. And now with Space Launch System and Orion, like we kind of have to at this point, but it's still the same old business as usual of encouraging delays and encouraging things to be drawn out so that most money can be funneled into all of the different spaceflight centers.
So, Mike,
that's just my opinion anyway. That's how I feel. I'm sorry for being so pessimistic about it, but
that's why I passed it to you. I knew you were passionate about that one. Space Mike's new slogan is "Be fixed, be flexible, be fair." Trademark Space Mike. All right,
stern but fair.
There were actually a couple of really cool comments in the chat room. Chris Radcliffe said if we had a COTS-style program for heavy lift, it would have required something to do with heavy lift, not just launching CubeSats, which is the problem the Space Launch System has. Is great, so we do a commercial orbital transportation services type contract for heavy lift rocket, but what are we heavy lifting? Right, we're building the Space Launch System. We're building this epic rocket. What's it going to do?
Well, I could say one or two actually. Europa mission, a mission to either Uranus or Neptune, and a Mars sample return mission.
Are
would be
all of
pretty
those real
sweet.
missions that exist today?
The Europa mission, yes.
Okay, and that would
one-
allow
that
a
one is-
direct...
Yeah, that would basically, instead of having to spend 6 years zipping around the inner solar system to get to Europa, that would be literally 22 months, less than 2 years, direct ascent to Europa.
So you got one mission.
One so far.
One. That seems like a whole lot of contract for a mission.
There's technically 4 missions, but 3 of them are Orion missions, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're not my point is real missions today.
Well, the Department of Defense has also said that they could use the space launch.
What do you mean by
Sure they can.
But, you know...
What do you mean by real missions? Like, have they taken place, or is money given to them and they're officially on the books?
Number 2 is
What
money
do you
given to
mean
them
by
and they're
real?
officially on the books.
Yeah, there's 4 missions so far that are officially on the books.
Oh.
Exploration Mission 1, which is an uncrewed test flight of Orion around the moon. Exploration 2, which is the same flight profile but with a crew. And then actually there is it's kind of a 5th one that should be secured pretty quickly, because the 3rd one, of course, is the Europa mission, and then the 4th one that's official is Exploration Mission 3, and that's going to be astronauts in an Orion retrieving a sample that would be collected by the Asteroid Redirect robotic mission to grab a small boulder and bring it into lunar orbit.
I thought that
And
wasn't
that
necessarily...
possibly might not be launched on the Space Launch System, and that's why there's some question about that one. But Exploration Mission 3 is pretty much on the books. It's
Wait,
as
no,
far
no.
as things that I've seen, it's on the books at this point.
No, is it pretty much on the books, or is it on the books? Is it an official mission that will absolutely happen, or is it, because that's not my understanding on EM3.
Money has been appropriated for that mission in the 2016 budget, and it's up to the decisions on the 2017 budget, which is now in the process of going to get started bouncing around between the House of Representatives and the Senate as to whether or not to officially proceed on it. But as of right now, there's money going towards that mission of Exploration Mission 3.
I'm feeling sketchy on EM3.
Which is a lot
also,
more
I'm going
than a
to
lot of
eliminate...
plans. Like Uranus or Neptune orbiter, no money is being funneled into that yet. Those are still just proposals. Design reference missions is what they call them at this
Then
point.
those don't count either. Also, I'm not going to count a test mission because you're testing the thing that you built. The whole point of this was you needed to do things. So obviously you'll have test missions. So for our argument's sake here, I'm eliminating test missions, and I'm only saying, okay, what missions are actually going to happen for realsies for sure? And to the best of my knowledge, it's like
I guess you can only
one,
say
maybe 2. So anyhow.
Handful. So-
Science flight. And
Also,
one,
is it a case of if you build it, they will come?
I like under Constellation how it did have payloads. It was supposed to have the lunar lander with the Orion. That could have been, who knows how.
I will say, all right, here we're going to end the show and then we're going to talk about Constellation. Now, I'm going to give you a quick snippet. I will say that with the exception of Ares 1, Constellation was actually a pretty decent program. Ares 1 was ridiculous. On that note, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.